Live.
And it's one person. So after this, I'm not gonna leave anywhere. This is exciting.
Oh, snap. What's up, everyone? How's it
I'm
going?
curious
Good
how many we're
morning.
gonna be on this morning. Oh, we're like 400 people.
Welcome. How you
Yes.
doing? How you doing?
Good morning.
What's up, people? We'll just give it a few minutes. Jennifer, welcome. Welcome back. All right, people. We're gonna just give it a couple seconds to a minute before
Sunday school.
we jump into it. I'm really excited about today. What's up, Chi? All right. You're gonna message Chi?
Oh, immediately.
All right, appreciate it.
Tell Chi to look out for my voice memo.
All right, hey Chi, James is gonna send you a message. All right, make sure you check that message out. Very important to this live. What's up, everybody? Hold on. Yep. Okay, let's get that going. All right, people. Let's see. We're gonna give it one more minute, and then we're gonna jump into what we have going on today. All right, which is how to be more plant-based. All right, I'm really excited about this live, and we're gonna share lots of information that is going to get you right, and if you are right, keep you right. Okay, the goal is for us to be really successful at being more plant-based. All right, so definitely make sure you tap in, send this to somebody, share with someone that might need some help. But we're gonna jump right into it. All right, it's 2 minutes. Let's get the party started. All right. So I have my notes together because I really want this to be very impactful today. So it's very important that we go over this and we don't miss anything. All right. So first things first, you are here because you want to be more plant-based. All right. And you want to be more plant-based without breaking the bank, without spending too much money, without being bored with the food that you eat, right? Really important, because I think a lot of people stop being plant-based or don't fully go plant-based because of options and technique, and more importantly, strategy. So today is all about strategy. It's all about how to have a solid game plan that no matter what's going on, no matter how busy you get, you can stick with this plan and really be successful at being more plant-based. All right. So what we're going to do is, I think besides that, most people fail because they don't have a really good place to start, right? And because they don't have a good place to start and they're just kind of going off of feeling, you end up losing momentum, right? Because it's one thing to have this energy in the very beginning and you're like, oh, I'm going to be plant-based. And then, a week, 2 week goes by, maybe a month goes by. And then you're like, oh, the fire is not there anymore. But what's up, Miss Invincible? Welcome. But when you have a strategy, when you have a game plan, regardless of if you have motivation, you're still going to keep going because you have that plan, right? Because motivation only lasts for a little bit. Like, motivation does not last for years. It does not last for weeks. It does not last for months. Motivation dies down, especially the longer you keep doing the same thing. But when you have strategy and when you have a game plan, that never goes away because that's the plan. Like, there's no wavering off of that. Like, that is what allows you to keep going every single day, every week, every year, until it becomes like breathing, where you don't even need to think about it. You're just going in and it's just like it's autopilot, right? So really, really important that you think about that. So this class today is not about cooking. It's really to dive into the mental aspect of being more plant-based. So this way you can do it successfully whenever you feel like you're ready to go and just go full throttle with it. All right. So I'm going to go into what I'm going to be covering today, which I feel is very important, so you have an idea of what's going to happen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about why most people fail at being plant-based, why they fail at eating plant-based. 2, how to transition without going extreme, right? What our real plant-based plates look like, how to grocery shop without wasting any money, how to meal plan without overthinking, how to meal prep without eating the same boring food every week, because this is a big deal, right? Like, who wants to keep eating the same thing every week? All right. And then last but not least, how to stay consistent. And then when you need help on coaching, you're going to know how to find me, and we're going to take it from there. All right. So those are the things that we're covering today. So section one, we're going to jump into is why most people fail. And it's not for being lazy. It's back to what I said in the beginning. It's about having a system. And because you don't have the right system in place, you will end up failing every single time, right? And, during my lives when I cook, I tell people, you don't want a situation where you're trying to replace meat for a vegan meat. You're trying to replace chicken for a vegan chicken. Like, that's when you get into trouble. That's when you fall off the bandwagon. And that's how you end up losing at this game, right? So the goal is to create food that's amazing, that is not replacing something that you're trying to leave behind, something that you're trying to forget, right? Really, really important. So the main points here is remove the foods that you're not able to replace per se, right? You want to make sure that you're seasoning your food properly. The other thing that makes people fail is the fact that you're not planning, right? You really want to make sure that you go into this with a game plan, right? It's very important for you to have an idea of how you want to approach this, even when you're super busy. Like, the goal is to not fall off because, oh, I'm really busy tonight, I don't know what to do. That's where the planning comes in. So it's really important to have a game plan, and it doesn't matter when you're trying to do this. Like, as long as you come up with a game plan, and you can start with one day, right? It's really important for you to not jump into this where you're gonna cut off meat, seafood, poultry, whatever it is, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? You don't want to do this cold turkey. Like, that's a big situation that will automatically allow you to fail, right? The goal is, when I started, the way I did it with my family was we approached breakfast first, right? We decided that we were going to go and do just plant-based for breakfast. We were eating meat, seafood, whatever for lunch and dinner, but breakfast, we were like, let's cut out all meats, all whatever it is, byproducts, all of that stuff. And we focused on breakfast. And that took a couple months to a year, right? But the goal was always to continue adding on to the plant-based system, right? So starting with one meal at a time allows you to do this really successfully, right? Because the goal is to not just jump into it and be like, oh, I'm good. I'm gonna just cut out everything. Like, you've been eating it for so long, your body craves this food. So after a while, if you decide to just not eat it, your body goes into shock. And because of that, you end up craving it even more. And then that's how you end up going back to eating it, when you should just be slowly taking it away, right? So the goal is, once you start with breakfast and you're able to master breakfast, and you're able to not eat, bacon, eggs, sausages, whatever it is. And the goal is, as you're omitting breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's to omit it in portions, right? Very important. Don't just cut out all of your bacon, cut out all of your eggs. Like, if you normally do 2 eggs for breakfast, do 1 egg. If you normally do 1 egg for breakfast, do a half an egg, right? And it's the same thing with the meat, the bacon, or anything else. Smaller portions gradually. And over time, those smaller portions get even smaller until there's none on your plate. And then your body is not like, oh, what happened, right? Like, think of it when you, like, for instance, if you put anything like if you're cooking, let's say you you put an animal, or you put a person, or whatever it is, and you're in a container, and the container is just, let's say we put an animal into a container, and that container is perfect room temperature, right? But if you slowly raise the temperature of that room, you don't really realize it's getting hot until it's too late, right? So it's the same thing with your body. When you are slowly omitting the meat, the byproducts, your body doesn't realize that you're doing less of it. So once you completely cut it out, your body's like, oh, right, not a big deal. Yes, you're gonna crave it still a little bit, but you're not gonna crave it as much as if you were to just stop eating it completely, right? So that's how you really get to do this without failing. And that's why most people fail, because they just go about it the wrong way. And it takes re-educating yourself to really do this successfully, and being in communities, like this live, for instance, joining me every week, right? Being in thank you, the Virgin Hair Fantasy. Health is wealth, for sure. Being in communities where people facilitate being more healthy, people facilitate, people want to be more healthy, and they are, you know, helping you and encouraging you as well. Like, it's really important to be around like-minded people. I'm telling you, like, that is one of the biggest things you can do for yourself. And if you're trying to do this with your family and they're not with it, they need to be excused out of the room, right? Because you can't, regardless of if it's family, if it's friends, you don't want a situation where the people you're around are discouraging you from being more plant-based, right? Like, you have to be around people that want this for you, that are happy for you, that will even do it with you, right? And if I understand that some family members, they're like, nah, because I have family members like that. I have in-laws like that, that they're just like, I don't care. Vegan is not for me. I love my meat. And that's cool. You do your thing. But at the same time, you can't now come to me and say, oh, that's not, don't do that. Why you not eating meat? Like, I respect your opinions and your values. You have to respect mine as well, right? Really important. So make sure that the people that you're surrounding yourself with are for you in this endeavor, and they're really there to support you. Okay. Now, next, let's talk about replacing one meal a day, right? This is really important. For example, pick breakfast, right? These are all the different things you can do for breakfast that's 100% vegan, right? That is really amazing. You can do overnight oats, you can do smoothies, you can do oatmeal with fruits and nuts, you can do avocado toast, right? You can do and what I like to tell people is, forget the continental breakfast, right? Because continental breakfast is bacon, egg, cheese, sausages, biscuits, toast, right? But think more global, think more international, right? When it comes to food. And for breakfast, you can do, of course, there's avocado toast, right? But you can do so many other things. You can do hash browns, you can do potatoes, you can do home fries, you can do sauteed spinach for breakfast, right? You can do so many different things. You can have a broth for breakfast that's completely vegan. There's just so many things that you can do. You can make, now we're going to get into recipes, because you can make your own version of vegan eggs, which is made from different types of beans, right? Which we're going to get into with later on in my coaching. But it's like, there's so many ways that you can do things for breakfast that just makes it really tasty, and you don't have to think about, oh, if I go vegan or if I go plant-based, what am I going to eat for breakfast? Like, there's plenty of food to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything in between. It just takes a plan, it takes strategy, right? And this is why you're here. So for everyone that is just joining, we are talking about how to be more plant-based, and we're talking about why people fail at being more plant-based. And it's because you lack strategy, you lack a game plan, right? It's very important to, just like with business, you're not going to go into business without a game plan. You're not going to go into business without a business plan. So, buying a house, like, there's certain things that you have to do before you get to the house. So just with that, it's the same thing with going plant-based. You have to set yourself up properly. You have to have the right ingredients. You have to have the right equipment, because all of these things help and they push you forward in being more plant-based. Okay. Now, if you are being consistent, is the other thing I tell people, right? When you're choosing to be more plant-based, sometimes you're going to mess up. You're going to eat something that you shouldn't eat. Don't be too hard on yourself. I remember when we first went plant-based, I was traveling to Dubai to do, to handle some business. And, my wife and I, we were there, and we had literally just decided that month we were going to be plant-based. And me being a chef, I was like, I'm in Dubai, I have to try the lamb, right? Just to see, because that's just something that you do when you're in Dubai. Like, the lamb there is pretty insane. So I had it, and then afterwards I was like, man, I thought to myself, like, what do I do now? Do I give up being plant-based because I just went back to eating meat? And my wife and I, we had a discussion, and we're like, no, we're gonna just keep it moving. We had it, it was good. It's there, we're gonna leave it there, and then we're gonna go back to what we're doing, which is trying to be more plant-based. So things like that will happen where or you might be out and there's nothing to eat, and you decide to eat some meat, seafood, chicken, whatever it is. Like, don't be too hard on yourself, and don't think because you did that it cancels the fact that you're being more plant-based. It doesn't, right? You just now need to make a conscious effort to say, all right, I did that then, but I don't want to keep doing that anymore. So I'm going to stick to being plant-based, and I'm going to just stay away from meat, seafood, poultry, etc. All right. So don't be hard on yourself when that happens. All right. It's okay. Just get back up, keep moving, and you're going to do really well at this. All right. Now, a big thing people talk about is what plant-based plates need. And this is protein, because unfortunately, there's this ridiculous stigma and this idea that if you're a vegan, you don't get protein. It's not true. It's very far from the truth, because what a lot of people don't realize is that almost everything we eat has protein in it. All right. Protein is a building block. It's what makes up most of the cells of anything we eat, basically. So there are tons of things that have protein that are 100% vegan. We have lentils, we have beans, chickpeas, tofu, tempeh, seitan. There's vegan protein powders, right, that are really amazing. There are nuts, legumes. There's even quinoa that has protein, right? So don't think for a minute if you go vegan or if you go more plant-based. And when I say plant-based, let me explain this a little further. Everyone's plant-based, right? Everyone on the planet is plant-based because everyone eats plants at some point, right? So that's what makes you plant-based. Now, there are people that are 100% plant-based because all they eat is plants. And you have people that are 50% plant-based. They eat plants, they eat meat, seafood, blah, 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 whatever. So you figure out where in that spectrum you fall. And then the goal is to be more plant-based than not, right? So right now, everyone watching and listening, you are plant-based. You just need to figure out how much vegetables you want to add to your plate versus the other stuff, right? The goal is to add less of the meat, seafood, and poultry and add more of the delicious veggies, all right? That's the goal. More vegetables, because at the end of the day, when people go to the doctor, when people get sick, when they go to the hospital, when anyone is trying to better their life in terms of a healthier life, the first thing the doctor recommends is a plant-based diet, right? So that's something to think about. Like, there's a reason why plants give you tons of amazing fiber, which your body needs. Nothing else gives you that fiber, and you need that fiber to have a healthy gut system. Like, your gut flora, which is what your body lives off of, which is without it, you're dead, basically, right? So what feeds your gut flora? It's plants, nothing else. Like, literally nothing else on the planet but plants. And you want to eat vegetables, you want to eat greens, because it allows your body to also digest and break down everything else that you're putting into your body. So it's really important. This is not, I'm plant-based, just to be cool. Like, no, like, being plant-based can literally save your life. All right. So it's really important to know why you're going plant-based, right? And not just to be plant-based just because it's cool, or to, like, some people are plant-based because of the animals, they're stand up for animals, which is amazing. There's some people that are plant-based because of the planet, and they want the planet to survive and thrive, etc. And then there are people that are for both. And then there's some people that need to be plant-based because they're unhealthy, they're sick, right? So it's really important to know your why behind being plant-based, and then use that to drive you to be plant-based to the best of your ability. All right, so we touched on protein. Now the next thing we want to touch on is, let's say if you're hungry an hour later, you probably didn't get enough protein, you probably didn't get enough fat or maybe fiber. So this is why when I cook during my lives every week, like you guys, for those of you that have been on my lives before, like you see my plates, there is a selection of things, right? And you really need to do that when you're plant-based, because putting a selection of food on your plate does multiple things. One, it gives you variety so you don't get bored with what you're eating. Two, it gives you lots of different textures, which is super important for when you're plant-based, right? And then three, it allows you to get more full, because think about it, because we're eating plants, a lot of plants is a high water content, right? So you want to make sure that you're eating a variety of fruits, vegetables, legumes, beans, things like that. So you're getting your fill from different things, right? The fiber from the beans, the legumes, all right, the fiber from the broccoli, things like that. So it's really important to make sure that you're maximizing your vegan plate when you do decide to make food, right? When people eat meat or seafood or poultry, it's easy to just put a protein on the plate, some starch and a veg, right? That's your meal. But when you're plant-based, you now need to be creative, and this is where the fun happens, right? You get to put multiple things on your plate that has protein, that has carbs, that has fiber, and all the other nutrients that you need. But you need to have a really nice mix. So things like quinoa, brown rice, sweet potatoes, farro, oats, tortillas, whole grain pasta. These are things that really help fill you up, right? Which is really important. So it's maximizing different meals at different times of the day, and then making sure that, when you do cook your meals and you do have dinner or lunch or whatever it is, that you're having multiple things. So this way you don't feel like you didn't eat, right? Do you offer one-on-one coaching? Yes, I do offer one-on-one coaching. The service, if you click on the service tab in my profile, you can see my one-on-one coaching. But yeah, and I also have it available other places. But yeah, one-on-one coaching is something that I offer for people that want to take it a step further, right? They know that they need to be more plant-based, and they just need a little bit more guidance, a little bit more, hand holding, right? Like just a little bit more personal encouragement. So I definitely offer one-on-one coaching, and it's a great way for you to get a game plan so you can jump, into it, running without any hesitation. All right. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to touch on was, where are we? The flavor formula, right? Super important. This is one of the strongest sections that I feel makes or break people that are trying to be more plant-based. All right. So I think when you're cooking, right, it's really important to have certain flavor profiles, right? Because flavor profiles allows you to make exciting food, right? When you are doing food, if you run into a situation where your food keeps tasting the same, then these are something to think about, right? You want to make sure that there's salt, there's acid, there's fat, there's heat, there's texture, and there's spice, right? Very important. And the texture is a big component in this, right? Texture is a very big component in this, because texture is one of the things that you miss when you stop eating meat, poultry, seafood, etc. Right? There's that mouthfeel, there's that texture that is very different from plants and fruits. So to be able to mimic that texture, it's very important to have different texture profiles when you make your food, right? So that's why I like to char my broccoli, my cauliflower, things like that, my cabbage, right? Given that extra bite with the texture. steaming rice versus boiling it. Like there's certain things that you want to cooking your pasta al dente, right? Making your beans to the point where they're not baby food, they're not super mushy, right? These are the things that you do. And then in terms of the way you layer flavor, it's really important, making sure that you have umami in your dish, right? Using things like bay leaves, right? Which really adds that meaty kind of flavor to your foods, your beans, your sauces, your stews, things like that. Finishing with some acid, right? Like lime or lemon zest, lemon juice even. Cooking with chilies, chili flakes or spicy chilies, really important because plant-based becomes fun when you create different flavor profiles that allows you to make the food sing, right? At the end of the day, nobody wants to eat boring food. No one wants to eat food that just is like, I had this yesterday, I had this last week, it's not that great. Like the goal is to evolve every single time you cook, right? And do it better every single time, so it becomes better over and over and over again, right? So definitely pay attention to texture, and with plant-based food, make sure that you have texture on your plate every single time, right? Because the texture on your plate is what allows your food to not be boring. So if you run into a situation where you find you are getting bored of the food you eat, you're getting bored of cooking food, is because your food is probably more one-dimensional than it needs to be, right? So definitely don't think it's weird to have different types of foods on your plate, different cultures on your plate, right? Like sometimes I'll have mac and cheese on my plate and I'll have curry on my plate as well. Like they go, or mac and cheese and, beans, so the goal is to merge flavors, mix flavors. Don't worry about the fact that you're adding Indian and American or Indian and, Chinese food on your plate. Like, don't worry about that. The goal is to put really good food on your plate. And as long as that food's good and you're enjoying it, you're gonna keep doing it. You know what I mean? You're gonna keep being more plant-based because you're actually enjoying the food that you're eating. All right. So really, really important to make sure that you tackle that. Now, the next thing I want to touch on is how to shop properly. This is really important. San, what's up? Welcome, welcome. This is really important. How do we shop properly to be more plant-based, right? Very important. One, I would say if you have access to a farmer's market, definitely make sure you go to the farmer's market every week. It's your best scenario for the freshest food, right? The most nutrient dense and the most flavorful. Number one, always farmer's market, right? And the reason behind that is because everything that they're selling literally just got harvested that week that they're there or the week before. So they're not picking. So let me tell you. So the way supermarkets work, right? The produce that they get, it's almost always green, right? And not mature, not ripe. So then they introduce these chemicals to it and they force them to get ripe. They force them to get this color, and because of that, you end up with food produce that is lacking in nutrients, right? You end up with food that's not really that good for you. So it's one thing if that's all you can get, then that's all you can get, because sometimes that's all I can get as well. But to maximize your benefits, if you can get to a farmer's market, 100% go to the farmer's market. I promise you, you will not regret it. And buy as much food as you can from the farmer's market, and then whatever you can get at the farmer's market, you get from the supermarket, right? So farmer's market first, local farmer's market first, and then there's also a group that you can look into. It's called CSA, right? It's in America. For those of you that are in America, right? It's a CSA, and I think every country has their version of a CSA, but a CSA will allow you to find where there are local farmer markets and also where there are local farmers that do pickup or delivery, right? So definitely look into that, right? Really great gem there, right? To find what's in your neighborhood or close to your neighborhood, right? So in terms of shopping, when you go to the supermarket, stay out of the middle aisles. The middle aisles are set up to draw you in based on packaging. Everything in the middle aisles are packaged with a fancy label, nice design. It's there to draw you in. It's heavily processed. You don't need it, right? Maybe one or two things from it, but it should not be the bulk of your items when you shop, right? Now, when you get into the supermarket, the first place you go is to the produce aisle, right? You go to that section and you load up on your onions, your garlic, your peppers, mushrooms, broccoli, lemons, sweet potatoes, like all of these amazing things, right? But buy enough where it's not gonna go bad, right? Like shop smarter where you're able to use everything you've bought. So you're not throwing away money, you're not throwing away food. All right, very, very important. And let me give you a quick tip for if you're bought a bunch of herbs and they're about to go bad, they're getting yellow. One, you can either add it to your broth to make a nice vegetable broth or stock, or you can puree everything, add a little bit of garlic and oil to it, and it becomes this really nice herb oil that you can then use to put on your potatoes, on your pasta. You can use it on your rice, literally anything you want, right? So just something to think about if you have herbs that are about to go bad. Okay. Now, the other thing I would say is a tip with avocados, right? Because avocados are really good for you. What's up, princess? Avocados are really good for you. And for plant-based people, you need it because it's a very healthy fat and we need that, right? So I always have a minimum of 10 avocados in my refrigerator, right? Now, the smart way to buy avocados is to buy them completely green, really firm, really hard, not ripe at all, right? And what you do is you keep them all in the refrigerator, but then you keep about 2 or 3 of them outside, right? Definitely read the ingredients. It's a must for the plant-based stuff, for anything really. I mean, I saw a coffee label and it said could possibly cause harm to your body. Like it was insane, right? So definitely make sure you pay attention to that. What's up, Papa Nana? Welcome, welcome. So back to the groceries and the avocados. You want to make sure you get them firm, really hard. And what I do is I'll leave 2 or 3 of them out on the countertop, like right here on the counter, and I'll let those get ripe, and then I'll put them into the fridge. So this way, my avocados are always fresh. They're always beautifully firm and green on the inside and ripe and ready for them when I need them. Because if you buy all of them ripe and they're sitting in your refrigerator, they go bad really quickly. They get black and then you're wasting money. But with this way, you always have fresh avocados. They're always perfectly ripe. They're firm, they're delicious, and just amazing. All right, so that's that tip on avocados. Now, you want to pay attention to your produce when you're getting it, right? Don't get anything that's mushy, don't get anything that's fragile or soft. Make sure they look vibrant, make sure they look fresh, right? And definitely don't buy like pre-made salad mixes, right? It's like the worst thing you can do. Unless you're gonna eat it today or maybe finish it by tomorrow, don't get it, right? Like there's so many things that happen with salad mixes that is just, it's like a waste of money because they go bad really, really fast, especially when you get the softer, especially when you get the softer mix of lettuce, like the mesclun or the mixed green lettuce bags, like stay away from that stuff, right? So what I do is I'll buy like 3 or 4 varieties of lettuce. I'll buy kale, I'll get green lettuce, I'll get red leaf lettuce, and I'll get frisee, right? And then what I'll do is I'll have those whole heads of greens in my refrigerator, and then, during the week, I'll just pick off a few leaves off of each one, make that mix, and that's my salad, right? So it's super fresh, it's healthier, it's not going bad, it's delicious. And a tip for your greens, right? If you are getting down to the end of the week and your greens seem a little limp, they seem very almost like wilted, very soft, like bendy, not very structurally sound. Take a nice big ice bath, right? Lots of cold water and submerge your greens in it for at least 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes to an hour, right? You're going to end up with some beautiful perky lettuce, right? It works magic. I do that with my parsley. I do that with my cilantro. I do that with my scallions. I do that with all my lettuce, right? Really amazing. I even do that with my radishes. Like sometimes radishes will get soft. I put them in water and let them soak, and they're like brand new in an hour's time, right? So just something to remember when you are cooking, when you're prepping, when you're going about your busy day. All right, don't throw it out. Okay, so in terms of things to buy, right? So we went through the veggies, the fresh veggies. Now let's talk about dried goods, right? You want to get dried beans. Like I love dried beans. Like that's normally what I have in my house. Like I have buckets this big, and I'll do. And it's smart if you can shop with someone else in your family, a few family members or friends. Like you guys buy bulk and then you just divide it up. It's way cheaper. So that's a way to save money as well. So like I tag team with my mom, and we'll get like a 10-pound bag or something like that. And then we'll just divide it up, right? So I buy all kinds of dried beans, garbanzo, black beans, red lentils, yellow split peas, black eyed peas, red kidney beans, you name it. Like I'll get all of those, and I'll have those, right? And for me, I soak them the day before, so that way they get nice and soft and pliable and ready to cook, so they don't take that long cooking, right? And then in terms of dried goods, you want to make sure that you get like not even dry, but you want to get some tofu, you want to get edamame, you want to get chickpeas. I like having plant-based protein, like a vegan protein made from either hemp or green peas. It just depends on what I'm feeling at the moment. But those are just some of the things that you can buy in terms of protein, right? So it's beans for protein, tofu, edamame, seitan, chickpeas, quinoa, right? Very important for protein, okay? So make sure you have that on lock. And, I know some people might say, what about canned beans, right? Now, for me, I always go dried beans first, right? It's the best case scenario. But if you can't get your hands on dried beans, then I will do can, right? Can is always my last resort. And if you are gonna go with the can, just make sure that you rinse off the beans from the liquid that it's sitting in the can, because those sometimes they're highly salted, right? And tons of preservatives. So just rinse them off and then use those if you are going to go with the canned beans. All right. Now, in terms of grains and starches, these are things you need to have on hand, on deck in your house, right? So rice, I do brown rice. I'll do basmati or jasmine brown rice. I love that because the flavor, the aroma is just really amazing, and it's just a better rice overall. It's a healthier rice, those two. Quinoa is a must, right? And if you have been on my lives, you see like I'll cook quinoa, I'll add it to my salads. So quinoa is really great for multiple reasons. Oats, of course, I do overnight oats. I do oatmeal in the morning for breakfast sometimes. Potatoes, pasta, tortillas, bread, couscous. Those will be your starches and your grains, all right, that you need to have on deck in-house, all right? These are things that you can use to make multiple dishes at any given time. Potatoes, I like the red bliss potatoes. They're really nice. If not red bliss potatoes, you can do Japanese potatoes, like the sweet potatoes, the yams. The purple sweet potatoes are really good as well. Or your classic Idaho potato, right? Or russet potato if you're gonna do like mashed potatoes and things like that, or just roasted potatoes. Cool. Flavor builders. This is important, right? This is what my pantry looks like 24/7, like always. All right. You want to make sure you have soy sauce or tamari, right? Very important. Next, miso, right? Miso, you can use miso for so many things, right? Miso adds umami, just like soy does. And with miso, you can use miso for your dressings, your vinaigrettes. You can use miso to make a sauce. You can use miso for so many things. All right. Vinegars. Very important to have different types of vinegars as well. I like to hover between balsamic vinegar, rice wine vinegar, and apple cider vinegar. Those are my three favorite vinegars, right? What is miso exactly? Great question, Princess. Miso is fermented soybean paste. Basically, it's soybeans that they grind up, they ferment it, and they add salt to it. So think of it as like a bouillon cube made from soybeans but fermented. So it's very salty. But this is, if you've ever been to a Japanese restaurant and you got miso soup, that's what it's made from. It's made from miso, right? So actually, I'll show you. I have some in the fridge. If I can find it. Here we go. So this is what miso is, right? So it's like a paste, you see? And it's, it's a paste basically. And it's literally water, organic soybeans, rice, salt, and that's it, because they use the rice and the soybeans to ferment. All right? So that's what miso is. So really amazing ingredient. This is what they used to make like miso cod, so you can take if you wanted to do like a miso glaze, you would take a bunch of miso, add Japanese cooking wine, which is mirin, right? Add a little bit of sugar to that, water, boil it down. You would end up with this super delicious, sticky, Asian inspired glaze that you can then toss in your cauliflower, your broccoli. I mean, the sky's the limit. All right. So definitely make sure you get miso in your refrigerator ASAP. The next thing I would say you need to have is mustard, right? Like a Dijon mustard is really good for your dressings and things like that. Or for sauces that you're making. I would do coconut milk. I always have coconut milk on hand. I love super delicious sticky Asian. Yeah, it's the best, right? So coconut milk is always great to have because you can add that to your soups, you can add that to your sauces, you can add that to so many different things, right? Like I use coconut milk for a lot of different things. I use it for my rice as well. So it's really great for flavors. It's really great for sauces. It's really great for anything, really, even for soups, right? Like making a Thai or a Vietnamese soup, right? You would need coconut milk, and it's just something great to have. Next up is a curry paste. Now, this is more Thai, right? Because there's curry powder and there's curry paste. Curry paste being, more of an Asian ingredient where, you can use it for Penang, you can use it for making a marinade, you can use it for so many different things, right? But curry is really great to have. Tomato paste is another thing that you want to have in your pantry, and nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is big for being plant-based because it gives you a lot of the needed nutrients that you might not get from certain foods, the B12s and the B vitamins and things like that. So, and then it gives a natural cheesy flavor. So anytime I do mac and cheese, or I do gravies or anything like that, or even my dressings. Like I made a Caesar dressing couple last week, right? I use my nutritional yeast to add that flavor. So it's great for multiple things. You can sprinkle it on top of your salads, which I do a lot of the time. So nutritional yeast is really nice. You want to make sure you get one that I don't do the fortified ones, but it's totally up to you. But there are different ones out there, so just make sure you read the labels and find the one that has the most nutritional value in it, right? Naturally occurring nutrients. Okay, and then seasonings. Last but not least, me being a chef, I sell seasonings, but I also create seasonings. I buy seasonings that I don't make as well. Seasonings is a very big part of being plant-based. You need seasonings because seasonings allows you to create amazing food from different parts of the world, right? Like I have seasonings for curry, for African food, for Indian food, for Chinese food, Italian food, like you name it. Like there's seasonings for everything. So make sure if you want to step your game up in cooking, definitely make sure you get a bunch of different spices because the spices allow you to change the flavor profile instantly, right? So very, very important to make sure you get spices. And I'm working on having all of my spices available on TikTok Shop real soon. Is any of these seasonings you have? Yes, plenty, Papa. I have plenty of seasonings available. So Chi, if you're here, can you help me out? But yeah, I do sell tons of seasonings. I'll show you what some of them look like. I have two seasoning brands, right? So this is one, right? These here are the ones that basically go different parts of the world. So Caribbean heat, this is my smoky salt, this is Arabian Nights. So the names of the seasonings kind of tell you the flavor profile that you're gonna get by using them. And then this is my other brand that I launched not too long ago. This is called Flavor Bomb, right? And these right now, we have three flavors that are available on the on the website. Are they spicy? No. I have none of the ones I showed you are spicy, even though this one says Caribbean heat. It's a play on words. I do have, which one is spicy? This one has some heat to it, but it's not like uber spicy, right? But very enjoyable. The Arabian Nights, there's no heat to this one, right? And these are available on Knife and Spoon, all right? So I have Chinatown, I have Afro Beats, I have a Taco Tuesday that's impeccable, all right, Princess? So we have tons of flavors, and if you message me, I'll be able to point you in the right direction where you can get all of this stuff, right? That's available on the TikTok shop. And what's not there, it's available. All right. But I'm working on getting all of those on the TikTok shop really, really soon. All right. Now, next up, frozen items, right? Cool. Yes, send me that ASAP, and I will take care of you. Frozen vegetables is this is where people mess up, right? And you want to you want to get the right frozen vegetables, right? So I'm talking. Yes. Frozen berries. I buy a mixed bag of frozen berries and I portion them out. So I have berries for smoothies in the morning, right? Now, I also get frozen edamame, right? Because that's good to have on hand. Lots of protein. You can enjoy it as a snack. I sometimes will crush it up and add avocado to it and make an avocado toast. So that's hitting because there's tons of protein in the edamame, and then it's avocado, which is amazing, right? So I get frozen edamame, frozen berries. I get some frozen fruit, of course. I do frozen English peas. I always have bags of English peas because when I do pasta or anything else, I add that to it, or like a nice rice pilaf, I'll add the English peas to it. And then sometimes I'll do a bag or two of mixed vegetables because depending on if I'm in a pinch and I want to make something really quickly for the kids, for the fam, I'll grab a bag of frozen veggies. The one thing I like about the frozen vegetables is that when they harvest the frozen vegetables, because they're freezing it, they pick it at optimal nutritional, peakness. So you're getting really good quality there, right? It's the fresh stuff that you have to worry about, which is crazy, but such is life, right? So make sure you get your frozen stuff, you keep that on deck, all right? Now, last but not least, I want to jump into meal planning, right? Now, if you have any questions while I'm breaking all of this stuff down, please don't hesitate to drop your questions in and I'll make sure to answer them as soon as I can, all right? But meal planning is very important, and we need to not overthink meal planning, all right? Because meal planning literally can save your life. I'm telling you, all right? Now, let's go over what meal planning looks like. And meal planning is not writing, like a 47 item menu. It's not, it's deciding what you want your future to look like and what you're going to eat before you actually get hungry. This is how you do this successfully, all right? So with meal planning, the goal is to pick your proteins. Should I shop organic food stores only? Honestly, they're both the same. You know, if when once this life is over, like go look up like the story behind organic food, and you'll see that it was a ploy and a plan for the people, the big companies, the mega companies, to figure out another way to make money. So they slapped on this label and said, "Oh, this food is organic," and they raised the price, right? Because yeah, Princess, you said it. It really isn't. In the beginning, it was great, but now it's just as anything else. Because two things people don't know, right? And this is the average consumer. The farmers that sell organic food, they also grow regular food that is not organic. And the issue is to sell organic food, to grow organic food, it's very expensive for farmers, right? So what ends up happening is the farmers that are doing organic, they're also doing regular produce. But the pesticides and everything that they're spraying on the regular produce is washing off and spraying and traveling onto the organic stuff too, right? It's the same soil. So it's not true organic. So, people buy because it makes them feel safe and, it makes them feel like they're doing something. But look look at it this way. When you go out to a restaurant to eat, you're not getting organic food. And that's the honest truth. So, you know, you buy what you can, you buy what looks great. Like for me, the way I shop, if the organic stuff looks better than the regular stuff, I'll get the organic. But if the regular stuff looks just as good, I'm getting the regular stuff because at the end of the day, it's basically the same thing, right? So that's that. Anyway, so meal planning, right? Yes, macadamia oil is amazing. Macadamia nuts are amazing. I've been misinformed about it. Wow. Yeah, Papa, it's a gimmick. It's a way for them to make money. And most of the farmers are all owned by mega corporations, and they have to do what the corporations say. They have to use the same seeds. Like it's a whole rabbit hole that is just crazy when you start looking into it. But it's like if you can grow stuff, grow it. If you can buy stuff from a local farmer, buy it. Right? Those are your two saving graces in this whole situation. Seriously. Right? So to meal plan successfully, what you want to do, what would you use organic if so? It would be maybe like plant-based milks, things that I can't really control. Non-GMO, yes. I stay away from non-GMO. That one you have a saving grace for the most part, right? I try to stay away from non-GMO as much as possible, right? But in terms of organic things, what I tend to get is I'll tend to do organic for maybe like cereals for my kids or my plant-based milks sometimes. But that's kind of it for me in terms of things that I get that are organic. You know what I mean? When will you be back in Las Vegas? I am not sure. I am not sure when I will be back in Las Vegas. Look up the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Yes, Pausha. Yeah. The Dirty Dozen. That's another rabbit hole, because there's so many things. And to be honest with you, if you look at what's going on right now in the world and things that you shouldn't eat, people won't eat anything. Like it's crazy. So it's really important to become friends with local farmers, to find certified, CSAs, places where they have access to farmers and they deliver or they do pickups and drop-offs, really important. Because that's the best case scenario, right? So you definitely want to pay attention to that. And this is why eating healthy is so important, because there's just so much stuff going on out there that the best we can do for ourselves is cook our own food, make food that's actually sustainable and healthy and is working for our bodies, right? So with meal planning, very important. You want to pick about 3 proteins that you love and always start with the things that you love to eat first and then venture out into other things, right? Things that are new. So pick your protein, whether that be tempeh, seitan, tofu, lentils, chickpeas, or a vegan meat alternative. pick that set of protein, right? And once you pick your three proteins, then you want to pick two carbs, right? Carbs will be your rice, your quinoa, your pasta, your tortillas, your farro, things like that, right? And then, of course, number three, you want to pick a sauce of some sort, right? Now, you can make your own sauces or you can buy them. I like to make my own unless I'm really lazy. Then I might get something, but then I end up tweaking it anyway and adding a few things to it. So you can buy a sauce that maybe you use as a base, and then from there you up the ante, right? So you can do your own version of a lemon tahini sauce. You can do an Asian sauce that I've done many times on my live. You can do a jerk sauce, a cashew sauce, chimichurri, right? You can do a curry or a tomato-based sauce, right? Last week on my live, I made this big batch of tomato sauce, which came out so delicious. And with meal planning, we jump into meal prep, right? And meal prepping is also just as important as meal planning, because after you plan, you have to prep, right? And what I do is after I do groceries, I'll pick one day out of the week and I'll do enough of certain things that will last me about 2 weeks. So I will do a big pot of beans. I'll do a big pot of tomato sauce, right? Like those are two of my staples. Prep is super important, right? So those two are my staples, and then I'll portion them into smaller containers and put all of them in the freezer. So this way I have tomato sauce when I'm ready. I have cooked beans when I'm ready, because these are things that take really long to cook, right? So you want to prep those in big bulks. Salads you can do every day, because 15 minutes you can make a salad mix, right? And everything else, you can maybe cut up your broccoli, cut up your cauliflower, put those in bags or containers and have them ready. So when you're ready to cook, you can just kind of pull them out, saute them, roast them, char them, whatever you want to do. But it's really important to have your bases done, right? The beans don't get mushy in the freezer. Oh no, princess, never, never. They only get mushy if you overcook them initially, right? So the goal is to cook them where they're nice. Live will end in 5 minutes. No! All right, people. Live is going to end in 5 minutes. All right, so beans don't get mushy. All right, live is ending in 5 minutes. So let's tie this up. Beans don't get mushy. Cook them to the point where they're done, but not to the point where it's super soft. Appreciate that, Papa Nana. Tell hubby I said I appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, cook your beans and make sure it's in enough liquid. That's the other thing. If you cook your beans and there's almost no liquid, when you freeze them and you're trying to take them out and defrost them, you're crushing them, and then hence that's how they become mushy, right? So very important, make sure there's sufficient liquid in your beans after it's cooked that they can float around and move around freely. All right, super important. So you prep ahead of time, you make big batches of everything, and then you store them in smaller containers in the freezer. You pull them out a day or two before you actually need them, so you have them ready for dinner or lunch. All right, and that's how you meal prep and you meal plan and you do it successfully, right? You do a pot of grains, you have your vegetables prep and ready to go. It's all about thinking about what you're going to do later on, but doing the preliminary work for it in the beginning. All right. So last but not least, and I think this is the last but not least, common mistakes, right? I'm gonna run this through. No protein plan, no buying too much fresh produce. My daughter wants your book too. That's awesome. Thank you so much. What do you do for breakfast? Breakfast, Tina, easy. I fast a lot. And fasting is actually really good for you. And this is something I wanted to tell you. I was going to close off with. Fast at least every quarter, right? And especially if you want to be plant-based and you want to kickstart your body, you should fast for like at least 4 days, right? To help you clean out your system, get rid of some of those toxins that you have in your body from eating meat, poultry, seafood, dairy, and all of that stuff. But for breakfast, I'll do avocado toast. I'll do oatmeal, right? I'll do what else I do for breakfast? I'll do pancakes, waffles. I mean, I'll do potato waffles. Like you can literally have just about anything you want for breakfast. You know, it's very easy. It's very simple. I'll do sautéed spinach for breakfast with hash browns or home fries. You know, I like to bake a bunch of potatoes whole, right? Bake them whole. Once they're done, let them cool down completely, cube them up, and keep them in the freezer or keep them in the fridge. And then for breakfast, I pull them out, put my skillet on, peppers, onions, garlic, potatoes, a little bit of chili crunch or some Southwest seasoning, and boom, I have a delicious breakfast item, right? Overnight oats, chia pudding, you know, fruits with my oats. There's lots you can do for breakfast. All right. I know my time is about to run out. It says I have maybe a minute or two, but yeah, Tina, my pleasure. If you guys are looking for more, definitely message me once the live is over. I do one-on-one coaching, I do group coaching. So if you and your family members want to learn more about being plant-based, we can do that too. My one-on-one coachings are really amazing. I cook with you depending on how you want to go about it. We can do all theory or we can do practical. We get on a Zoom together, we cook together. So there are many ways that we can do plant-based food and do it really well, right? You just have to take that leap and message me. All right. Any questions before our live ends? Yes, Papa Nana. Like, I mean, you, your daughter, hubby, whoever you guys want to come together, we could totally do that too. You know, it helps when you have a community. It helps when you're around people that want to do what you want to do as well, right? So that encourages everybody and it just levitates and just brings everybody up even more, right? Like it's a better, it's just more cohesive. All right. All right. Any other questions? Talk to me. Yeah. Definitely, definitely. So, thank you so much, people, for joining me today. Thank you for being on this masterclass. I hope you got some information that was worth your time. Thanks for hanging out. All right. There's plenty more where this came from. I have tons of information, cookbooks available, cookbooks on the TikTok shop, cookbooks on the site, cookbooks everywhere. We have spices, seasoning, aprons. Thank you, Chi. I appreciate you helping out the people and sending them the right information. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, people. So I will be back on here this evening at 5:30 making dinner. So make sure you come back for that. All right. What am I doing for dinner tonight? I am not sure what we're doing for dinner tonight, but it's gonna be plant-based. It's gonna be delicious, and yeah. Oh, nice. I'm glad you got it. Empress, what's up? Morning, morning. Morning, morning, morning. What's up? Welcome, everybody. Let me add this book real quick. You dig? Yes. All right. Pinned. Beautiful. Yeah, people. Thanks for that tip, TVHF. So if anyone is interested in getting an amazing cookbook, please definitely check out the link below and get you a book, right? We're doing a special this week, right? We're continuing the special, and it's an extra download of some amazing recipes that also help you with breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. It gives you really great salad ideas, smoothie recipes, as well as desserts, right? This is a PDF download that I gave out with my last masterclass that I did via Zoom. So it's an amazing download. You definitely want to check that out if you haven't gotten it already. All right. And yeah, I appreciate the love. The GOAT. Yes. Empress, you rock. Thank you so much. Trades, what's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome. Stay blessed, Nana. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate the love, everybody. Thanks for rocking and rolling with me. You know, my timer said I had 5 minutes, but for whatever reason, we're still rocking and rolling. So I'll stay here until I answer everyone's questions. So any other questions while you are here, while I am here? All right. I am going to be live at 5:30 ish, right? 5:30 doing dinner. All right. And yeah, in the meantime, if you have any questions about being more plant-based, then now is the time. All right. Now is the time. Ask away. All right. You have any questions about breakfast, any questions about lunch? Thanks for the gifts. Appreciate that. Thanks for the rose. Yeah, questions about dessert, breakfast, dinner, lunch, snacks, you name it. I got you. New recipes for cinnamon and mushroom caps. Ooh, I just look at these. So funny you said that because I just got some cinnamon caps from the farmers market on Saturday. Look how beautiful these are. Whoo! Right? Right, Empress? Look at these, baby. Oh my goodness. I might be cooking these tonight. Yeah, buddy. Um, so yeah, for me, that recipe, I have a really amazing recipe actually in the cookbook for these exact mushrooms, the cinnamon caps. They're amazing. They're amazing. So, for me, I love garlic. I love chilies. Those are two things that I always use with my mushrooms. Like anytime I cook mushrooms, like there's some heat, there's some spice in there. There's lots of garlic. I'm doing some umami, maybe some sesame oil, some soy sauce. Always like to hit it with some fresh herbs. So I'll go in with some parsley or cilantro, maybe even some Thai basil. But you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. And you notice I have it in a paper bag, never in plastic. All right. Anyone that puts mushrooms in plastic, they don't love the mushrooms. All right. They don't love their mushrooms. And you should watch them with an extra eye. All right. Any other questions for me, people? Any other questions for me? Talk to me. Talk to me. Any ideas for radish? My supermarket keeps sending me them for beets. Radishes. Yeah, I do them in my salads all the time. Trades. Like I'll just slice them up really thin and throw them into my salads. That's one way to use them. Two, you can marinate them. I like doing lemons, extra virgin olive oil, garlic, a little bit of parsley, minced really fine, and just tossing them in that. Delicious, right? Another way you can do it is you can take the radishes, cut them up, and I use balsamic reduction. It's a sweetened balsamic vinegar that looks like a syrup. It almost looks like molasses, and I just drizzle that over them as well, right? That's the third way you can do it with a little bit of olive oil. They taste amazing. Lots of fresh cracked black pepper. And then the last way is if you like them cooked, then I would toss them in some extra virgin olive oil, lots of garlic, and put them on broil, right? So have the broiler on really high for at least 15 minutes so it's piping hot. And then I would slide them in, right, onto the broil and make sure you toss them in the olive oil and the garlic. And once they start to char and kind of sizzle, I would take them out because the beautiful thing is you can eat them raw. So charring them is just to blister them just a little bit, just to kind of help the flavor penetrate, and then finish them with like some fresh lemon zest, a splash of lemon juice, just a very tiny bit, and it's really delicious. Maybe even a little bit of butter at the end. But yeah, appreciate the roses, Empress. But that's what I would do with them. And yeah, I'm mad that the supermarket is sending you beets, radishes instead of beets. That's crazy. Like, how do you not know the difference? They don't look the same. I mean, they kind of round, green on the top, little root on the bottom, but it's like night and day. One is like this big, one is like this big. You know what I mean? It's like, anyway. Anyway, I love the questions. What other questions you got for me, people? What other questions you got for me? My pleasure. My pleasure. 3 times now. That what's worse is the supermarket labels them as beets. Oh no. Yo, that's bananas. That that's crazy. I've never heard that. But a lot of people just don't know what food is. So I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, not everyone is educated when it comes to food items. You know what I mean? So sometimes you get some crazy stuff, and that's why, like for me, like I love going shopping myself, but sometimes I just don't have the time. So I use Instacart or I'll use whatever company to get the food, and I'm just mad when I get my stuff, my groceries, and it's like not what it's supposed to be, or they'll pick up really damaged food. It's like, bro, come on. Like you're gonna put something in the bag that's not 100%. Like you can tell it's going bad if you looked at it. You know what I mean? It's soft, it's dented, it's bruised, but that's how some people shop, so you gotta take it with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? You're saving time, so as long as you can get your money back, I guess it's whatever. But then you're out of a product, or you know, radishes are your least fave. They're really good for you. High in water content, very hydrating. I 9 out of 10 times mine are always raw. I just slice them up and I throw them right into my salad. So they add texture, which is something we spoke about during our masterclass, right? Like it's really important to have different textures. Like your salad should not all be mushy. It shouldn't be just leaves, right? Banana blossom recipes for summer. Any recommendations? Empress, you coming with the killers. So banana blossoms, definitely, I like treating them like seafood. So, I'll do two batters. Like I'll do a dry dredge of like Japanese panko breadcrumbs, season that, and then I'll do a wet batter, right? And I'll put even some of the dried panko into the wet batter and season that wet batter as well, right? So my wet batter, I'm doing lots of white peppercorns or black peppercorns, right? Double batter, definitely double batter, right? But I'm seasoning my wet batter with pepper, salt, nutritional yeast, a little bit of oil, right? Some smoked paprika, some mustard powder, mixing that up real good. A little bit of Old Bay, right, in the wet batter. And then for the dry, I'm doing salt, pepper, nutritional yeast, right, in the dry. And then, you batter that up. I'm telling you, you're in a good place. And I also like to kind of salt cure the blossoms first. So I'll make like a salt solution, like a brine almost, and I'll let it sit in it for like maybe 10 minutes or so, and then take that out, completely dry it, and then dip it into the wet, dry, wet, or dry, wet, dry, and create that nice crispy situation, right? So that's how I would handle that. For sure, for sure. Yeah, definitely a brine, definitely. Because you think about it, it's the way it is. Once you batter it, no seasoning is getting to it. You know what I mean? So at least with the brine, you're able to kind of break down those fibers early. So this way, when you cook it, you have flavor just from top to bottom. You know what I mean? Top to bottom, really important. Oh. Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna skedaddle out of here and get my work day started. All right, this is actually my work, but I have other work to do. So I will chat with you guys later. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks for the questions. I appreciate it. Thanks for the love, the shares, the reposts, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys this evening. All right, for dinner. Much love.